The untold history about the Bible and early Christianity. When we think of the Bible, we often picture a single sacred book, perfectly preserved through the centuries. But the truth is far more complex and far more fascinating. The Bible as we know it today is the product of centuries of debate, revision, and hidden history shaped by emperors, theologians, translators, and forgotten voices. What survives in modern Bibles is only a portion of what was once written, taught, and believed by the earliest followers of Jesus. Christianity, in its earliest days, was not a single unified movement. It was a diverse and contested landscape of ideas. Dozens of texts circulated, some now familiar, others lost or suppressed. There were multiple Gospels, each telling the story of Jesus in different ways. Some emphasized his humanity, others his divinity. Some focused on secret teachings, others on public miracles. There were letters, revelations, philosophical discourses, each painting a different picture of what it meant to follow Christ. But only a fraction of these writings made it into what we now call the New Testament. The process of choosing which books belonged and which did not was long and political. It wasn't until nearly 4 centuries after Jesus' death that the biblical canon was officially closed. In the year 397 AD, at the Council of Carthage, church leaders agreed on a list of 27 New Testament books. But even then, debate continued. Other Christian communities, like the Ethiopian Church, kept additional books in their Bibles books that Western Christians have never read. Why were so many texts excluded? Often, because they didn't align with the theological direction the emerging church had chosen. Writings like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, and the Apocalypse of Peter offered views of Jesus and salvation that were too mystical, too human, or too empowering, especially to those without authority. These excluded books were labeled heretical, hidden, or destroyed. A turning point came not through theologians, but through a Roman emperor. In the year 313 AD, Constantine the Great legalized Christianity in the Roman Empire. Before him, Christians had been persecuted. After him, Christianity became the favored religion of the state. But Constantine didn't support Christianity out of pure faith. He saw in the church a tool to unite his empire. For that to work, the church had to be unified in doctrine. So in 325 AD, Constantine called the Council of Nicaea, a gathering of bishops from across the empire to settle a crucial debate. Was Jesus equal to God or subordinate to him? The decision would define the future of Christianity. The council rejected the idea that Jesus was a created being and declared him of the same substance as the Father. This doctrine became the foundation of Orthodox belief, and those who disagreed were branded heretics and often exiled. From that point on, Christian theology became less about diversity of thought and more about uniformity. Councils, creeds, and imperial power began to shape the church's message. And as Christianity grew more institutional, certain voices, especially those of women, were pushed aside. In the earliest Christian communities, women played vital roles. The New Testament itself names women like Phoebe, a deacon, Eunia, an apostle, and Priscilla, a teacher of theology. Mary Magdalene was the first to witness the resurrection. Some texts, later excluded from the Bible, portrayed her not just as a follower, but as a leader, someone Jesus trusted to carry his deepest teachings. But as the church grew into a male-led institution aligned with the Roman patriarchy, the roles of women were systematically erased. Eunia was retranslated in some manuscripts as Junius, a male name that didn't exist. Writings that elevated female figures, like the Gospel of Mary, were discarded. Over time, the church became almost entirely male in leadership and voice silencing half of its earliest believers. Even after the canon was set, the Bible's journey was far from complete. The next chapter in its history was translation. The earliest scriptures were written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. But as Christianity spread across the world, the Bible had to be translated, and with each translation came jizz. The most influential early translation was the Latin Vulgate, created in the 4th century by Jerome. It became the Bible of the Catholic Church for over 1,000 years. But translation is never neutral. Decisions about words, phrases, and interpretations were made by human hands, often with theological or political motives. A simple word like Alma in Hebrew, which can mean young woman, was translated into Greek as Parthenos, or virgin, a choice that reinforced the doctrine of the virgin birth. Much later, in 1611, the King James Version of the Bible was published in England. Revered for its poetic language, it was also a state-sponsored effort to unify the English Church and strengthen the monarchy's control. Certain passages were emphasized, others were softened. Some, like the story of the adulterous woman, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone," weren't in the earliest manuscripts at all. They were added later, but became so beloved that removing them felt impossible. Every Bible we read today is shaped by these decisions: what to include, what to translate, and what to emphasize. The Bible is not a static book. It is a living document molded by history, culture, and power. So what is the untold history of the Bible and early Christianity? It's a story of competing voices, only some of which made it through. It's a story of political leaders shaping theology to suit their needs. It's a story of lost texts, hidden truths, and marginalized voices, especially those of women. It's a story of translation, interpretation, and the power of language to shape belief. And perhaps most importantly, it's a reminder that what we know today is only part of the picture. The Bible is more than a book. It is a tapestry of human experience, stitched together over centuries by those who believed deeply and often disagreed profoundly about who Jesus was, what he taught, and what it meant to follow him. The untold history invites us not to lose faith, but to deepen it, to ask questions, to explore the texts left behind, and to remember that the earliest Christians didn't all agree, but they all searched for truth. In the end, maybe that's the real message, that faith is not about having all the answers, but about having the courage to keep seeking them.